Like most people, you've probably got a lot going on. So if you can't make it to a Charles Bookwalter for Congress town hall, we'll bring the town hall to you. Join Charles Bookwalter Thursday nights at 7 p.m. for a digital town hall, streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Jump into the comments section to join in the conversation. Make a comment or ask Charles for his opinions on the issues that are most important to you. That's the Charles Bookwalter for Congress digital town hall, streaming live beginning at 7 p.m. Thursday nights. Exclusively on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Search Bookwalter for Congress to learn more.
The more that a broken system tells you that you're wrong, the more certain you should be that you must keep pushing ahead. Because it's the outsiders who change the world and who make a real and lasting difference. Nothing worth doing ever came easy. Treat the word impossible as nothing more than motivation. The future belongs to the people who follow their heart no matter what the critics say. We must always remember that we share one home and one glorious destiny. We all bleed the same red blood of patriots. We all salute the same great American flag. Our best days are yet to come.
What are the people of Indiana's 4th District saying about Jim Baird voting with Democrats to pass Joe Biden's $1.2 trillion spending bill? On May 7th, vote no to Jim Baird.
I'm Charles Bookwalter, and I approve this message.
What are the people of Indiana's 4th District saying about Jim Baird voting with Democrats to pass Joe Biden's $1.2 trillion spending bill? On May 7th, vote no to Jim Baird.
I'm Charles Bookwalter, and I approve this message.
If we look to the answer as to why for so many years we achieved so much, prospered as no other people on earth, it was because here in this land we unleashed the energy and individual genius of man to a greater extent than has ever been done before. Freedom and the dignity of the individual have been more available and assured here than in any other place on earth. The price for this freedom at times has been high, but we have never been unwilling to pay that price. Those who say that we're in a time when there are no heroes, they just don't know where to look. The sloping hills of Arlington National Cemetery, with its row upon row of simple white markers bearing crosses or stars of David, they add up to only a tiny fraction of the price that has been paid for our freedom. Each one of those markers is a monument to the kind of hero I spoke of earlier. Their lives ended in places called Belleau Wood, the Argonne, Omaha Beach, Salerno, and halfway around the world on Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Pork Chop Hill, the Chosin Reservoir, and in 100 rice paddies and jungles of a place called Vietnam. Under one such marker lies a young man, Martin Treptow, who left his job in a small-town barber shop in 1917 to go to France with the famed Rainbow Division. There on the Western Front, he was killed trying to carry a message between battalions under heavy artillery fire. We're told that on his body was found a diary. On the flyleaf, under the heading, "My Pledge," he had written these words: "America must win this war. Therefore I will work, I will save, I will sacrifice, I will endure. I will fight cheerfully and do my utmost as if the issue of the whole struggle depended on me alone. We must realize that no arsenal or no weapon in the arsenals of the world is so formidable as the will and moral courage of free men and women. It is a weapon our adversaries in today's world do not have. It is a weapon that we as Americans do have. Let that be understood by those who practice terrorism and prey upon their neighbors. As for the enemies of freedom, those who are potential adversaries, they will be reminded that peace is the highest aspiration of the American people. We will negotiate for it, sacrifice for it. We will not surrender for it now or ever. We are Americans.
This is the Charles Bookwalter for Congress Digital Town Hall. Your chance to talk directly with Charles Bookwalter about the issues important to you. Jump into the comments and join the conversation. Now, without further ado, here's your host, congressional candidate for Indiana's 4th District, Charles Bookwalter.
All right, that's a cue. So we're starting here tonight, May 2nd, 5 days before the primary. We're almost there. Is anyone ready for this to be over? Or is it just candidates that are ready for this to be over? We've been running since May 21st. We've been running this campaign, so almost 1 year. And it was pretty, and people on the team can back me up on this, that there wasn't a lot of anxiety or stress or anything going. But the last 20 days, that has been increased a little bit as we get closer to the election. The anxiety that so much comes down to an election like this, this primary is so important, that the last 20 days started catching a little bit. These last 5 days, we've worked so hard to put so much time and effort into this that we're back now just kind of staying focused and doing all the important work. So thanks everybody for being here tonight. First off, I'd like to offer an opportunity for anyone that might be running for precinct committeeman or delegate or anything like that to introduce themselves here in Plainfield. Is anyone running for any of those positions? No? Precinct committeeman, delegate? Okay. Well, then in that case, the only other person we have to introduce is Mr. Joe Baddock, who is running for office, and so he can introduce himself to you. And you can use that microphone.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And hello, Plainfield, Indiana. And I'm honored to be here at the Charles Bookwalter Town Hall. Like Charles said, my name's Joe Baddock, and I'm a candidate for State Representative District 28. I'm a strong conservative that's tired of what's going on. I'm tired of the agenda, and I'm tired of no representation in Washington. But tonight, I'm not here to campaign. I'm here to support Mr. Charles Bookwalter. So if you may, I'm going to put my glasses on. Excuse, I didn't bring my jacket because I thought we were going to be outside. Give me your jacket for just a minute. Okay. Anyway, if you just turn on the news today, and I know all of you have, and all week long, we're at a point, and Mr. Bookwalter's main theme is wake up and fight back. And that it has to be done now. I have two sons. Luckily, both are through school. They graduated. I spoke to another lady from Purdue. Very proud of them. They're both great guys, hard workers, good morals. But what's being done in our federally funded universities today has to stop. Our children are being indoctrinated to hate America. It's almost hard to fathom. Enrollment must decline, and I'm a big supporter of defund the universities and the liberal American hating professors and fund our police departments. So again, the news, the kids are chanting in the streets, "Death to America." They're burning the American flag. If I could have another cup of coffee with my father that's been gone 30 years, it would be a conversation that I know it would make his blood boil. But anyway, I thought this morning that if my kids were at school, one of those schools now, I would sue the university for their tuition back. They're not educating our kids, and they're not protecting our kids. We need leaders who love America in all levels of public service. That's from the school boards all the way up to the Oval Office. We need term limits. And I believe that lifelong career politicians are political parasites. Currently, we elect leaders that have never been employed. They've never served our nation. They've never created a job, and they've never signed a paycheck. They apologize for America, and they cannot lead. We are at a crossroads. I truly believe that. So Charles Bookwalter's campaign statement reads, "Wake up and fight back." What a profound statement. As conservatives, we must stand up for our beliefs, and we must get involved. And patriotism is a feeling of love and devotion to your country or your state. And bravery is to have the mental or moral strength to face danger, fear, or difficulty. In the short time that I've known Charles Bookwalter, I'm proud to call him my friend. And yes, our views do align. Charles has integrity. After a recent town hall meeting, just to veer off here just a little bit, and then I'm going to give up the mic, but after a recent town hall meeting, a few of us were standing around just enjoying each other's company. I looked over at Charles and jokingly I said, "When the day comes that you're nominated to be our president, I'd like to be considered joining your cabinet." Charles smiled, he didn't even miss a beat, and he replied, "You'll be invited, but you're not there to run the department, you're there to help me dismantle it." And I thought that's exactly what needs to be done. But Charles Bookwalter is the kind of man that an election should just be a formality. He's already earned our vote. I truly believe that. We would be fortunate to have Mr. Bookwalter represent us in the Congress of the United States. So without delay, I'm going to give the microphone back, but I'd like to welcome a Green Beret, an American patriot, a father, a husband, and a great American, Charles Bookwalter. Thank you.
See, I knew I didn't have to read that. You can take that with you. Someone will answer that. It was very nice of you, Joe. Thank you very much. You can bring the baby inside. Oh, really? Yeah. It's okay. That's all right. Yeah. Bring the baby in. We need more babies around here anyway. All right, let's open up in prayer, if you don't mind. Let's bow our head in prayer. Father God, thank you for a wonderful creation that we get to live in, and us, designing us with a purpose. And I just pray as we seek to do your will here on earth, that you lead us and guide us, and we look to your word and to your guidance so that we can be great stewards of your country, of families, of all the power and dominion that you've given us here on earth, over the earth. And we just pray that we seek your guidance, your wisdom and understanding in everything we do. And we glorify you, God, Father, in all we do, no matter what we do. And it's Jesus' name we lift it up. Amen. All right. Hey, Sandy and David, welcome. How you guys doing? We got a lot of people here. So let me tell you a real quick story about some of these forums and town halls today. We've been doing a lot of these. This is probably number 50 or around that in speaking events or town hall meetings that we've done. How many are familiar with our campaign? You've seen some of what we've done. So you've seen a lot of what we've done. I don't want to really open up and talk about me, although if we have some questions, I'll answer any questions about it. But I'd really kind of like to tell you a little bit about the campaign and where it stands. Because at this point, we're being taken very seriously by the incumbent, and I'll tell you a few of those reasons why we're being taken seriously. But we do so many events and so many forums that here's something that I noticed at these forums that we're doing now. When we went to a forum that Joe Baddock was talking about, where we spoke, the incumbent that Joe is challenging got up there and said to everyone, They admitted this. Nearly every incumbent that got up at this Boone County Forum agreed that the Indiana legislature failed us during the COVID regime. They all agreed it. They said it. And then this incumbent, who's been there for 26 years, said, we failed. Yes, we did all this wrong. Sorry, we should have done better. I just need you to elect me for another term. That's what they said. And that's when I'm like, come on, how much more evidence do you need? Or accountability. We have got to hold these people accountability for the decisions that they make that have such an impact on our lives. So that was Joe Baddock's challenger that got up there and said that we made a mistake, we failed during that time, and you need to reelect us in the same breath, in the same sentence. So it was very, very difficult to listen to that. So these town hall meetings, I was just telling everyone, they're important because we have so many people that listen to these town hall meetings after the fact. Last Saturday we did one in Carroll County. It was supposed to be a debate. At this point, I don't know the number, but it's had over 600 views, I think, at this point. I would need confirmation, but many of these town halls that we do, the night of, there'll be 200, then 304, and then all of a sudden you look back and they'll have 1,000 views of watching these town halls. That's one of the differences that we will bring to a candidacy, to how we would be a representative in the district versus a legislator. So let's just look 5 days past now. We've been doing these town halls. It's like I said, around 50. I do a digital town hall every Thursday. Well, if we were the presumptive winner, the nominee, if we won the primary, imagine how impactful these town halls could continue to be. There's a big difference between the incumbent and my children, okay? I have two 9-year-olds and an 8-year-olds. I work with children in our kids' church, in our homeschool environment. We work with these children. The incumbent doesn't have a relationship like that with young people. The incumbent doesn't do town hall meetings like this regularly. The incumbent doesn't do debates, doesn't take questions, and doesn't show up for these kinds of informative meetings where we talk about the issues. So I just challenge, like, imagine what that would look like if we won in the primary on Tuesday, and then we continued to use and advance this platform that we have to relate to the people of the Fourth, to talk to them, and to continue fighting these super important issues that we're fighting. So what are these issues, and what does it look like, and what have we been doing the last year? Well, as a candidate, I've been running a candidacy for about almost 1 year. We announced May 21st. So I've been all over the district going to commissioners meetings, BZA meetings, planning meetings, election board meetings, and other events where patriots get together, 501c3s and forums and other events where people are discussing difficult issues. And just in that year, we've had a lot of advancements in some of these very important issues, like the Green New Deal, the energy policies that are being forced on Hoosiers. Now, yes, the incumbent and Republicans didn't vote for now that policy came through in the Inflation Reduction Act. Those green energy policies came through in the Inflation Reduction Act that was signed. No Republican signed it. And it passed before the Republicans won the majority in 2022. But what does it matter when that happens, when the Indiana Republicans they want a piece of that money that they've passed? They want to belly up to the trough and bring that money back here. And that's what our incumbent has done, and that's what some of these Indiana State General Assemblymen have done, is they're going after this federal money, and they're bringing it to our districts, all throughout the 4th District, all throughout Indiana, and all throughout the United States. So we've been able to stop solar fields in Putnam County, for example, just by showing up and getting them to not rezone a particular area. We got them to stop solar fields in Fountain County just last week by showing up, 200 people, going to a few meetings and telling them they don't want this, and so they put a moratorium on it. We were able to stop solar and wind in Boone County by showing up to a number of events, insisting that they hold a workshop, which they did, where all the local elected officials showed up, and 200 people showed up to the fairground and spoke out against it. And that next Monday, the commissioners voted for a 2-year moratorium on solar and wind projects in Boone County. We've been able to stop or slow down carbon sequestration projects in Newton County and Jasper County up north, where they're trying to drill all these wells. Newton County just passed an ordinance where they said that these trucks, they passed a weight restriction, that these drilling trucks could not come into Newton County and couldn't drill. Therefore, BP and these carbon sequestration companies have just gone to surrounding counties and started trying to pick them off because Newton County got them out for good. In Hendricks County, they just stopped a wind project because people started showing up and going to the meetings, and they blocked them from doing a wind project. So these are happening all over the district, where the local people do not want and do not trust these federally subsidized companies coming and buying up our property. And it's interesting that that's what I'm fighting against, is our representatives are getting this money and they're bringing it back to our district on projects and things that we don't want to occur and we don't want to happen. Another one is election integrity. Boone County is probably leading the way when it comes to wanting more transparency in our elections, of going back to a time that we had single day voting. And if not a single day, okay, but maybe a couple days, but not a month of voting that we're seeing right now. And getting rid of the machines and getting back to paper ballots, or having a national holiday where you have a day off on Tuesday, 24-hour period, and everyone goes to vote. So, and we fought for this. Why do we have to fight for this? Because in 2002, the federal government passed the Help America Vote Act, the HAVA Act, which means that Indiana is getting federal money to administer their elections. It's unconstitutional, but they'll never stop it because Indiana just wants the money, just like these companies just want the federal subsidies. I'm giving you an example of that because all these issues that we fight in the district, they're all issues that are being forced on us by the federal government. Joe Baddock brought up schools and about how, that was a silver lining in COVID. One of the few silver linings in COVID is that it brought the public school system into parents' homes and they were able to see what was happening. But that's because we have a federal government that's involved in your schools all the way down to the local level. It's a big part of our platform, is defunding and getting rid of the Department of Education at the federal level so that states and local authorities can have more control over education and more accountability over education. But it's just another one of those examples. And all of these things, including war, which is we've had for the last 100 years, in which our congressman has voted for time and time again, it's funding more war and more interventions abroad. They have an effect on us that we're all seeing around us as you go out to McDonald's with your family, or Jimmy John's, because I'm a little closer to Jimmy John's. And for 4 people with the sandwich and a chip and a drink, you're looking at $50, $60, $65. I don't know how families do it anymore. But this happens. Inflation, is what I'm referring to, is a result of deficit spending. So as Americans, we have to start considering that if we really want change, which we all say we do, if we really are tired of the representation in Washington, D.C., if we really are concerned with the future of our country, then we have to be prepared to do serious things and take bold action. That means defunding agencies. That means not supporting every single war, even if you might align with this one a little bit yourself for whatever reason. But the United States has got to start turning inward quickly instead of being the interventionists abroad that we're doing, supporting everyone else as the country unravels in front of us, in front of our eyes. Our country is unraveling as we're focused on global issues that aren't important to, I'm not saying they aren't important to people of the 4th Congressional District, but the meddling in the global issues makes it important to the people of the 4th Congressional District. When so much of our money is being taken to sponsor all the things that I just said, that I just talked about, then no wonder we're at each other's throats. No wonder college campuses are completely divided and divisive, is because the United States, and with our money, is taking positions that a lot of these kids don't agree with. No wonder we're so divided in our communities when it comes to this green energy policy. Why? Jim Baird just made a statement on carbon sequestration. I think that property owners can do whatever they want with their land. Okay, well, why can't I do whatever I want with the fruits of my labor? Private property begins with that dollar that they've taken from us and then created a solar company with and then gone off and bought off our neighbors. And those private property begins with the fruits of our labor. They forget about that. They just want to say that private property is that wealthy 2,000 acre landowner that they just paid off $75 million so they could put a project there. They paid them off with our money, our private property. It's the reason that we're so divided. It's the reason that we're so divisive is because we don't have control over so much of our resources anymore. They're being controlled by a very small group of people, a managerial class that I like to call them, a global elite that chooses where and when businesses go and how they go there, and they centrally plan all this stuff. And then we get upset about it because we're funding it. So we have to start looking at how we're letting our government elected servants continue to build a government around us that they say is in our benefit and in our interest, when in fact, in reality, it's not. It's divisive. It's making us poorer, and it's making us weak and vulnerable all over the world, and making our dollar weak and susceptible to not even being the reserve currency anymore. And we're right on the brink of that, which could mean economic catastrophe here at home to have a quick change like that. So that's what we're doing in the district, and I've been doing it for the last year. And so, as you might, some of these meetings that I go to, there's 150, 200 people at these meetings, these Warren farmers. They stopped the carbon sequestration solar meetings. There's 200 people at these meetings. So if you want to know why we outraised the congressman the last 2 consecutive quarters with more individual contributions than he had, it's because we have the support of the people. We've knocked on over 25,000 doors. I bet it's 30,000 doors. Nancy Hill is here because someone left. Her son and I were friends in high school. We grew up together. It was a surprise seeing her. I'm like, Nancy, how did you hear about this? Someone left a brochure in my door, so I decided to come to the town hall. We've knocked on over 30,000 doors. Why have we been able to knock on so many doors? Because a big part of our campaign in the last few years has been recruiting people to get involved in government and get engaged in the political process by running for precinct committeeman or delegate or a state or local office or a federal office. And then we've helped train them. So in our little group that we have in Boone County, we provide constitution classes, precinct committeeman classes. We've purchased software that is a campaign sidekick software, so people know they can knock on the doors in their precinct. And we've given them all this training and this opportunity to go and knock on doors. And now they're out there knocking on doors as a precinct committeeman for the first time and handing out one of those little yellow pieces of literature. My name is John Smith. I'm running for precinct committeeman right here in your precinct, so I want to introduce myself to you. You're a Republican voter. And as such, I'd also like to introduce to Charles Bookwalter. He's running for Congress to represent you. And we have hundreds of people doing this. That's why we've knocked on 30,000 doors. So I think the landscape of Indiana politics, I'm very bullish that the landscape of Indiana politics after this primary is going to be completely different. We're going to have precinct committeemen that are grassroots people, that are patriots like you and me, delegates that are running for delegate so they can vote for Micah Beckwith as lieutenant governor. It's a big movement that's happening all over the state of Indiana. And now we're starting to see, we're getting a lot of attention from the opponents as they try to say things about us that really aren't true, that we're part of the Washington, D.C. swamp. Folks, I've never been elected. I've never been elected before. I've never been elected before, but I was accused of being part of the D.C. swamp. So I don't really understand that one, but it means something. I don't even know how many, maybe Kramer can answer this. I don't know how many messages I get a day through text or DM on Facebook of people saying that I voted for you. You guys, it's 20 or more a day when we go out and door knock. So first of all, we were door knocking the other day in Montgomery County during the day. So the hit rate wasn't that high because a lot of people were at work. But of those people that answered their door, and I don't know what there were, it was probably 25, 30 people out of the 100 that we answered. 6 of them had voted early. Out of those 6, 1 voted for the incumbent. 5 had voted for Charles Bookwalter. So I'm sharing all that with you to let you know that this momentum is behind us. This is a very real opportunity for us in the 4th Congressional District to have a champion for freedom, a champion for the people, someone that has never been elected to political office before. So I have received no money from any lobbyists, no money from any PACs. And frankly, I think that it's a gift from God that I have had an opportunity to get a few very important endorsements. About 2 weeks ago, Representative Bob Good from the House Freedom Caucus, a caucus that I'm very closely aligned with and that I would vote with most of the time, called me and interviewed me for 45 minutes, said, we're really interested in your campaign. We're considering endorsing you. Well, the interview went great, but I didn't hear anything. Well, you guys, I don't owe the Freedom Caucus anything when I go out to Washington, D.C. I've had other people contact the campaign, or we've reached out to, would you consider an endorsement? Not one person is going to endorse someone that runs against an incumbent. But that's not a bad thing. This is a beautiful thing for us because we don't owe anybody anything when we win. That we can build coalitions and build bridges with the people that is most important out there, which is the House Freedom Caucus, Thomas Massey, and some of these few independents that are out there actually significantly impacting Washington, D.C. right now. They're holding the leadership accountable, and if they make a deal with leadership, like with McCarthy or Johnson or whomever, and they do not stand up with or uphold their side of the bargain, then they get them out. And they hold them accountable. And that's what we need to have more of. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I'm talking about when we talk about serious, fundamental, drastic, and bold change, which we all probably feel we must have sooner than later if we want to, have a country that even resembles a little bit of what we all grew up in. And I'm only 47, and it is completely different, the world, than what I grew up in the 80s, a beautiful time period. So that being said, that's my opening. I've got all these notes, but these are just from other things that I've already done. There's nothing on here for me to look at. These are just other speeches. So I thought I'd come in here and open that up with a little bit of what we've done, what our campaign looks like, and then open it up for any questions or comments about, yes ma'am.
Okay, so first of all, I agree with you.
Let me get you a microphone.
We want to get you on the microphone so we can
so you can hear me over there.
The
Yeah, so
live stream.
I agree with you on everything. I am just curious, though, how you respond to those people that do think, I don't know why, but they do think that we need the federal dollars, and so, oh, you should bring them here? Because I know people who think that needs to happen. Or, well, they're going to spend it anyway. Well, why don't we bring it here?
Yeah.
So how do you respond to them?
Look, that's business as usual. It's funny you brought that up because at the Carroll County Lincoln Day dinner, which was last Sunday, and remind me, can someone get me a pen? I want to make sure I can take a note to remind myself of, yeah, thanks. I want to remind you a couple things about some of these things. I was at the Carroll County dinner, and I was talking about this with a an elected official here in Indiana that's very high up. You all know who it is. I just won't mention their name. And that person asked me about my thoughts on carbon sequestration. He said, well, you know, I'm not sure if there's anything I can do about carbon sequestration or solar or wind or whatever because, you know, you got the private property rights issue. And I said to them what I just told you. I said, you say that, and everyone talks about private property for these landowners, but what about our money, the private property, the fruits of our labor that you're taking, that none of these companies aren't even viable without federal subsidies? And it says it on the front page. Dolphin Solar, that's trying to start one in Fountain County, it says, we are a green energy federally subsidized company. They have admitted in many locations that they would rethink their business model if they didn't get those federal subsidies. So first I said that, and he's like, okay, Charles, I get it. Maybe you're right. He actually said, I'd never heard that example before. This high-ranking, I'd never heard that angle before. I'm like, oh, well, okay. I got a few more for you. And I did give him another one. But he said, okay, well, they've passed that bill anyway. So what happens if you get elected, when your constituents come to you and say, hey, they're passing that bill, why aren't you bringing that money back to the district? That's our money. We paid all these taxes, why aren't you? And I looked at him and said, that money is not going to the people. That money is going to BP, Whiting, so that they can build, they're going to get $500 trillion to build pipes 3,000 feet under the earth to sequester carbon. A scam in the first place. You know, this whole global warming catastrophe is a scam in the first place. And so these federal dollars oftentimes don't help the people that they're saying that they're going to help. It just leads to divisiveness and inflation right here on the ground. So what can we do? We need people like me that aren't afraid to stand up and say it and give them an alternative view of what is actually happening. Because they'll come out and say that, and some people are like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right, yeah, okay, it is federal dollars, you know, yeah, I guess we need to go. And they need someone to say, no, that is a logical fallacy. It's actually not helping us here. You're making an excuse and a justification for taking our money and rinsing it in Washington, D.C., and then central planning our local. It's an age-old debate between free markets and statism or socialism, whatever you want to call it, and we're losing that battle in Indiana. We are absolutely losing that battle in Indiana as the IEDC and the Indiana government takes in 55 cents, or they take an exorbitant amount of money, of our money, and then tell us that we're either too dumb or too poor to invest in our own communities on the ground. Well, yeah, because you're taking all of it and you're giving it to a few people and you're telling them to do it all in our areas. So I just think so much of this is just speaking the truth to people that have found a real like sweet or salty way to say something that sounds good to us and gets us off our balance a little bit and not able to respond. But in reality, those federal tax dollars are not helping us here in Indiana. They're dividing us, and they're only helping a small group, a few people. And here, I'll say it like I've said this before. I can't believe I've even aligned with Bernie Sanders on this, but Bernie Sanders has said, you know, the billionaires and the millionaires and the billionaires are so, you know, and when I look at the IEDC and the LEAP project, it hurts me to think, Bernie Sanders is right about this right here. Because I would rather, they're buying 11,000 acres. The IEDC now is a real estate company that's buying 11,000 acres in Boone County, very fertile, beautiful, rich farmland. And they're buying it and they admitted that they went there because there were so few individual landowners in such a large. There were 250 to 350 spread out over those 11,000, so they knew that they could buy them off the quickest and the easiest. So, I can't remember where I was going with that.
Bernie Sanders.
Thank you. So I have always said that in this instance, I agree with Bernie Sanders. If they're going to come in and take $1 billion and spend it in Indiana, I would rather them buy 11,000 acres and create 11,000 1-acre plots of land for Hoosiers to live with no mortgage, and then they can live on 1 acre of land, then giving 11,000 acres to a few globalist companies. And by the way, these are globalist companies. China, everyone doesn't want to give their land to China. Indiana's doing it. They just buy your land and then they give it to a manufacturer that they choose to come here. But I would rather, and I'm not for Indiana giving land to anybody, the IEDC doing that. But if they're going to do it, I would rather see 11,000 1-acre pieces of property than one 11,000 acre piece of property going to a few politically connected people. Yes, Mrs. Wood.
What will the land look like if they incorporate what? Oh, I'm sorry. What will the land look like if they incorporate what they're saying they want to do?
This is in the bill that they wrote. It is a medical technology park. It's got to have a certain amount. I think it's 25% has to be sustainable green energy. And the biggest piece is the microchip manufacturing plant that they want to go there. I'll tie this all in. The reason that the IEDC and Boone County set this up the way they did is because they were going after this CHIPS Act, which was signed in 2021. Our congressman signed. Not every Indiana legislator signed it. And Heritage Action said that it'll make Americans less competitive in the chip manufacturing market. But there is this CHIP Act that was hanging out there that they all knew was going to pass. So they came together and created this LEAP district to bring in this microchip manufacturing company. So, but they needed to show that they had it before this CHIP Act passed. So it's a $50 billion project, this CHIPS Act, that's heavily subsidized by us. And that's why they need to pull that water from Lafayette down to Boone County. Has everyone heard about that? Yeah, the water steal. So this is just central planning, but that's, Sandy, that's the incredible thing, is that they just want to put that chip manufacturing, they just want it right there. It doesn't matter if they need 100 million gallons of water a day, they have to pull it 53 miles, they have to build a $2 billion pipe to get the water down there, but they don't care. They want it right there, and that's where they're going to put it. So as it stands right now, that LEAP project is one of two that is in contention for this chip manufacturing facility. My guess is they're not going to get it because there's so many people opposed to pulling that water down that this chip plant's probably going to go to the other place where they already have water, or that maybe they did a better job centrally planning it. Now, something to consider that no one considers is why did chip manufacturing leave the United States in the 90s?
We did it.
Yeah, the government did it. They drove manufacturing out of the United States through things like OSHA, high regulations, labor laws, that these chips, I'm sorry? EPA, that's one of the biggest ones, EPA. And so they just closed shop and they left, and they got a great deal over in South Korea and Taiwan. So they began manufacturing all those chips in South Korea and Taiwan, where the United States and a few Nordic countries became the center of the designing of these chips. So we still design a lot here, but we don't manufacture them. And so it was government policy that led to us losing this chip manufacturing, just like we've lost a lot of manufacturing in the United States due to government treaties and government policies. But instead of going back and correcting this policy, no, they don't want to do that. They don't want to admit that they made a mistake. They want to fund the new crop to come in and get these great deals and get 11,000 acres for free and get all these tax abatements and put a chip manufacturer, and then call people like me a Luddite, anti-development, because I'm exposing what they're doing. Oh, you don't believe in you don't believe in technology, you don't believe in economic development. No, that's not what we're saying. We just don't believe in what you're doing and the way that you're doing it. So that's what it would look like. It's green energy. So a lot of people have said that this LEAP project is Indiana's first 15-minute city, if anyone's familiar with the WEF and some of these cities that they're trying to set up where you don't need a vehicle, where you have no carbon footprint, right? You're going to eat cricket dust. You're going to live in your little pod with your virtual glasses on, living in a virtual world, getting your cricket burgers delivered by Uber. So you're not a carbon footprint anywhere. And I don't think that is hyperbole, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, it seems to me that beyond the issue that you talked about with the federal government spending our taxpayer money in ways that don't benefit us, but it benefits, certain international companies and companies that they have relationships with. They also spend money to the tune of $1 trillion every 100 days in deficit that in ways that we really don't have a lot of input into. So, they basically have got an open checkbook to do whatever they want to do with, and they're really not accountable. So do you have any suggestions on how to resolve that?
Yeah, we have 3 branches of government, all right? How is Congress supposed to control the other 2 branches of government?
Stop the money, the power of the purse.
That's right. Stop the money, the power of the purse. And they've completely given up that responsibility.
Shut down the government.
That's right. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about looking at this a different way, is not being scared to say, yeah, we can shut down the government. And do you know why I know that we can shut down the government? Is because they shut down the engine of the American economy, world economy, an American worker for a year or whatever they did. They literally locked. Do you want me to hold the baby? No. Okay. All right. I'd be happy to hold the baby. They locked us down. So if they can lock down the engine of the economy, government doesn't produce anything. Government doesn't produce anything. There's nothing that they produce. They don't produce anything. They have to take to distribute. So if they can shut us down, then there's no question. There's no question at all that the federal government can shut down, and we'll figure it all out. That the people would figure it out. It would probably be a much better system. So, and we have to be able to speak boldly about that. We have to be prepared to take those positions and say, well, we're not going to vote for this, and we're not going to do it this way until you change X, Y, and Z, or you're not getting funded. You're not getting funded. And the first thing we'll do is we're going to take every other word in the alphabet, and your last name begins with that letter. You're gone. You lost your job. You've got to go back to the private sector and go get a job. And literally just gutting these agencies. That's the role and the responsibility of Congress. And I'll make one more point before I forget it, and I'll get to your question, because this is these these companies that start out like this, Pete. Here's a great example, everybody. If you haven't seen this, again, I feel like this is why this town hall, if we were to win, would be so important, because I'm able to tie in all these things that are happening all over the district and paint a picture for people, because what I see. These companies, like these solar companies, that's what's really pernicious about these companies, is that these are lobbyists and lawyers and savvy, politically connected businessmen that know all about these bills in Washington, D.C. and when they get passed. So when that infrastructure bill passed and they knew all this money was coming for these green energy policies, there are savvy people that know, that can start a business, that can put it all together, that know how to apply for these loans and go to China and buy solar panels from China, and they start a solar panel company, and they come to the Midwest because they know that they can purchase property for $80,000 an acre, which to them is cheap when they're getting a $500 million grant of federal money to start a company. And that's why these companies fail all the time. And the IEDC has a 53% failure rate of delivering the promises that they made to these projects. And there's the documentation of this. Someone did a study on this. They have failed. They've failed to deliver their promises over 53% of the time with these projects. And a lot of the time is because of what I just said. They're politically connected people that start these monies to go after, they start these businesses to go after the money. They're not going after a sound business idea. They're not going it because they believe in it. They're not doing it for any reasons of entrepreneurship or rivalry or any of that. They're going after it merely because the money is available. And then these projects fail. There's one in Clinton County that has really had a really tough run at it. They're probably not going to deliver the promises that they promised that county, the amount of money that they promised that county. And it's happening all over the district, again, all over the state, and all over the country. Yes, sir.
Yes, I just wanted to say on the government shutdown. My father was an air traffic controller. Reagan shut it down 8 times. He was back paid, so it's not a total shutdown.
Yep. Yeah, there's
You
that.
know.
There's that, and a lot since probably because of Reagan. I was in the Army during one of the shutdowns, and I don't remember not getting paid. There's carve-outs already for certain sectors that if there is a shutdown, they get paid. They're outside of that. So they want to scare you and think, oh, if we shut down the government, we're not going to pay police and military and fire.
Non-essential people get cut.
It's not essential. So military is essential. All the essential people get paid. And,
So
and
don't let
who's
them
not
scare
essential
you.
now anyway? That means that liquor stores and Walmart is going to get paid because they're essential, right? The rest of us have to stay home. Yeah.
No church custodians.
Yeah. Yep. Yes. All right. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. We might try to go to another event if time permits. If we wrap up around 7, but I'm not going to leave early if we keep going.
Well, out doing door-to-door for you in Attica, one person that I talked with the sheriff's department's car sitting out in front said, what's his stand on law enforcement? I'm parroting the question.
Yeah. Yeah, it falls in line with where I stand on defunding these agencies. You know, we need to defund the ATF, right? We need to defund these agencies that have been weaponized against Americans, like the FBI, the CIA that's just guilty of regime change all over the world. That doesn't mean we don't have law enforcement. That means we don't have federal law enforcement. And we take our money and we invest in law enforcement that's closer to the people and more accountable. I mean, that's... Yeah. So we invest in the sheriff's department and we invest in the local department where we actually can talk to the sheriff and we can actually talk to local people. You cannot talk to the FBI. You're never going to talk to the FBI, but they will ruin your life if you get on their bad side. So I mean I support local law enforcement because that's the closest to the people. Local law enforcement goes into my Jimmy John's. I know these guys. I deliver to them when they're out. I can talk to them. I know them by name. So we can have a relationship with local law enforcement. We have no relationship with federal law enforcement. They've created an industry around federal laws and federal criminal laws that are most of them are unconstitutional anyway. So that would be my suggestion: is breaking up these federal agencies, saving our money, and then reinvesting in local agencies. Yeah, for sure.
I'm sorry. I'll try to make it quick because I know you want to
No,
go.
no. Take your time.
I actually had 3 questions for you.
All right,
The
let me get a
first-
pen out.
I know, no. The first one is one, you've already got my vote. But 2, we see a lot of congressmen and our leaders going to Washington, D.C., and once they get there, they succumb to lobbyist money. Can you promise us that you won't do that, 1? 2, what is it when they get to D.C., all these lobbyists just come after them and promise them all the money? My second one was, you kind of answered it earlier, are you willing to shut the government down? And then 3, how would your vote been yesterday on the because I didn't like that vote. I mean, I agree with somewhat the concept, but when you read the fine lines in it, it was a bad bill.
Yeah. Yep.
What bill was that?
The Anti-Semitism Act that was signed last night. Okay. How do you not take lobbyist money? Okay, so again, we've outraised the congressman in the last 2, but it's not enough money. It's very difficult. So you won't see any TV ads or anything that we do because that takes a lot of money. You haven't seen any mailers, right? But you all got mailers from Jim Baird, didn't you? Oh, yes. You all got a lot of mailers this year, didn't you? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. They were campaign pieces and text. They were campaign pieces because we're running. And those campaign pieces that were sent out, ladies and gentlemen, that was franked mail. You all paid for that. Your congressman used the franked mail privilege to campaign. It's immoral, unethical, and illegal, but the House of Representatives approved it, so they do it. I can't say that I won't take any lobbyist money, and here's why. Because there's a lot of, there's big liberty out there. There's big liberty, right? So there are some lobbyists or PACs out there that are us. They're trying to influence their rep because they're us. Like NAGR is National Association for Gun Rights. So if the NAGR wanted to contribute to my campaign, I see that's good. Like that's a good lobby. They're doing a lot of good things. GOA would be another one. So there are a few. But the fact is that what I've told everybody is that if months ago when I was trying to raise so much money to do this, I would tell people it's up to you to contribute to a candidate like me. You have to own your congressman. Because if you don't own your congressman, they're going to go out there and someone is going to own your congressman. So I'm going to prove when we win on Tuesday that you don't need as much money as they say that you need. You need, there's something that you need. And so many of them don't have it. Okay, and that's hustle, right? So many of them don't have it. And maybe they had hustle 50, 60, 70 years ago, but they don't have it anymore. So many of them. So we're going to prove that you can win a congressional campaign on $200,000 if we win. We're going to prove that because that's about what we've raised and put into this campaign. And if we can do that, and we're going to do it the way that we've told everyone we're going to do it, by staying in the district, by staying close to the people, by doing these town halls, I'm not going to have to, I won't need lobbyists' money. If we're closest to the people, if we're doing what we're saying we're going to do, it's not going to be necessary. And these congressional races are way too expensive. They want you to think they're a lot of money for a reason because, they want the money. But in reality, I think if you do this job correctly, like the way it was intended to be done, I'm not redefining this role. It's doing the role the way it was intended to be done. To be a representative of the people, not a legislator. I'm not going there to legislate over you. I don't have a legislative agenda where I'm going to write a bunch of laws to just oppress you with. It's being a representative. So there's that. Another thing, why is it that they go there and they cave? Yeah. I wrote one word on here. Spine. This job, in my understanding of this job, is not that difficult of a job. Literally, they travel like Monday and Friday, and they're there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's going to be very demanding for me because I'm not going to live in Washington, D.C. I'll figure that out, but I am not going to live there. So it will be demanding on my schedule. But the hardest part about that job, does anyone know? The hardest part of that job is what? Yeah, is having a spine. Is going there every day with people, your colleagues, and being able to sit next to your colleague and be a friend, be nice to them, shake their hand, but still be firm and say, no, I am not doing that. I'm not doing that. I don't care how many people you send to me and try to put pressure on me. Does anyone know what Dr. Ron Paul's name was in Congress when he was there? His nickname, what they called Dr. Ron Paul?
No, what was it? No.
Dr. No. No, what was it? Yeah. Dr. No. They called him Dr. No. Ron Paul talks about it regularly, that lobbyists didn't come to him towards the middle and end of his career. They stopped coming to his office. Why did they stop coming to his office? Because he was Dr. No. And he said, no, I'm not doing it. That's not what my constituency wants. I'm not going to do it. So this is possible. There's people that are doing it, okay? So let's not act like it's not possible. Thomas Massey is doing it. There's many in the Freedom Caucus that are doing this. So it just takes somebody, I think, with a moral, ethical compass, with a purpose, and an outlook, an outlook on life, a worldview that's not self-centered or man-centered, but God-centered, and then the spine to actually come through with it. And then the last thing, sorry, sir, the anti-Semitic vote. Yeah. So, yeah, I would have voted no on that. And I've looked into it a little bit in preparation for tonight in case that question was asked. So the House Freedom Caucus, the 21 or so members of the Republican Party that voted against it were all part of the House Freedom Caucus. Thomas Massey, Matt Gaetz, they're all the ones that are out fighting that fight. And we can go a lot of different ways with this vote and this anti-Semitic thing, but it just reminds me, and I've read a lot about Barry Goldwater and the election of '64 and the Civil Rights Act in '64. And Barry Goldwater took a lot of flack for this. Barry Goldwater came out and said, we cannot pass this Civil Rights Act. Everyone is the same under God's dominion. Everyone is the same. We do not need to have a special class of people. If we outline a special class of people in the Civil Rights Act, it's never going to end. And we're going to have special, look around you now. We have a special class for everyone that now follows under this 1964 Civil Rights Act that they've continued to expand and expand and expand and expand, that includes everyone except for maybe someone that looks like me. Right? That's not in that Civil Rights Act, but everything else is. So, I see that and I think, why do we need a special class of people? I was asked this at another town hall, would you support anti-Semitic legislation? I'm like, no, like everyone is held to the same standard. What does it matter if the person next to me is homosexual, is Jewish, is Muslim, is black, is Asian, or whatever? You perpetrate a crime on that person, you're going to pay for it no matter who they are. It doesn't matter. You've committed a crime, and so you're going to pay for it. So these special carve-outs and cutouts I don't like, not to mention the fact that this legislation, if you read it, it just gives the definition-making authority to a certain group. That's what it's about. It's virtue signaling by a bunch of people that take no action, that have no spine, and so they virtue signal and say, look at me, I signed a piece of paper that says I'm anti-Semitic. Oh, big deal, right? Before October 7th, how many anti-Semitic pieces of legislation and protests were going on all over college campuses? How many before October 7th? Zero. There were zero. And now it's a big deal, and they act like this a piece of legislation is necessary? No, I'm sorry. Like once again, we're being hoodwinked with something that in 10 years or 5 years is not going to be the same of what they've proposed now. And many of you probably saw that legislation that that's headed to the Senate now would make it anti-Semitic to say that the Jews killed Jesus, which is totally true. And I talk to my daughters all the time as we're talking about legalism and the Bible and a biblical worldview. We talk about it all the time. And this legislation would make that a crime. And the legislation like this only becomes more oppressive over years. They never take it away. They never back it off. They never take it away. It only becomes more and more. Yes, sir.
Yes. Would you commit as a congressman to not passing a bill that was put on your desk the day before the vote and the bill pages are 5,000 or 1,000 votes
Yes.
without going through that bill and cutting the fat and cutting things out of it that was snuck into it just to get them passed?
Yes, and so I've said this many times at these multitude of town halls that I've done, is that's what I'm talking about. When you talk about doing serious things and taking serious positions, that's one. And that's why to do this role properly, you have to be close to your constituency. Because when the news says Congressman Bookwalter didn't sign the minibus bill that made puppies and cats give them a loving home in Indiana, then I'm going to say, yeah, because it was a 7,000-page bill that they suspended the 72-hour rule on, and we had no idea what was in it. So yeah, it gave $2 trillion to cat and dog lovers in Indiana, but I didn't sign it because I had no idea what was in it, because we know there was something else in there. So absolutely, like this has to stop. This is why I have to look at this role differently. This is why we have to slow down government. We have to have single appropriation bills, not these omnibus bills. Yeah, not the minibus bills, not the omnibus bills, but single line appropriation bills where your congressman is on record, I'm voting for this, I'm not voting for that. Because this last bill was kind of a way that they did it, which allows them to get away with, like Congressman Baird didn't vote for Ukraine money, but voted for Israel money, and didn't vote for Taiwan money, but did vote to ban TikTok. So this just allows them in these bills to kind of get away with all of it.
He has another meeting.
I got another meeting to go
All right.
to.
Do I need to answer any questions to make sure that I get your vote on May 7th?
No, you
I got an email, I'll send them to you.
Okay, all right. All right.
Thanks.
I'll respond.
And thank you for your service.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Yes.
you. Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. So that being said, I do want to make sure that if anyone has any questions tonight, like if you're on the fence about my candidacy or anything about me, please make sure you ask me that tonight before we leave. There's only 5 more days, and I might not get the opportunity to talk to you. So if you have any concerns about something that you see, please make sure you ask me tonight. Yes, ma'am.
All right. I have
I can.
Kathy Crawford, by the way.
Oh, hey. Hey,
My
Kathy.
husband will-
Yep, nice to meet you. Yeah, thanks for
so,
coming.
Something that bothers me immensely is the term of a shareholder.
Yeah.
And we have all, I mean, that's not just a lobbyist, but these are the ones who are standing behind our local, commissioners, county, or whatever, standing behind them and saying, if you, will go along with this, we will get the surveys done, we will get all this. And even as a prior member of a school, the school board in North Montgomery, the term shareholders, we'll have to check with them, we'll find out with them, or if they are supportive and stuff. I mean, this is worse than a lobbyist, in my opinion, because they're being put before the parents, the rest. So
Yeah.
what can we do in that instance? I mean, they're before us even on the LEAP thing and every, major things. These aren't elected people. And then also for the Planning and Zoning Commission, we have commissioners and county representatives that are elected by the people. And then once again, it's the shareholders. What are they going to do? What can be done to that should be eliminated from the entire process. Then the county commissioners and the county council and the city council, they all have say-so in picking out these people who will be on the Planning and Zoning Commission.
No, they're buddies?
Oh,
yeah.
No, but then our, the county council people who have a backbone and a spine are saying, no, we don't support this project, and it's being overridden
Yeah, they get
by
run
the
over.
planning.
I've watched it happen. I've watched it happen in Boone County. As people stand up to them and they just railroad them. So the stakeholder question, look, I'll take it one further because you said shareholder. Now they're calling it stakeholder. And again, so many of these issues that we're talking about, what we talked about, these are all assaults on objective truths, okay? And this is another one. Like there's stakeholders in all of these decision-making trees, and that we all need to have an equal say in what it is. And that is Marxist terminology. This is Marxism and socialism, that they're using these key words in Indiana that we start picking up and using. I'm hearing now conservatives say stakeholders and shareholders. It's the same with them using public-private partnerships, right? Instead of saying that they're through the IEDC and through social re-engineering of our communities, they're just going to do a public-private partnership. And that's what they call it. They're just changing the definition of the words, but the policies and the principles are all the same. We need to speak out like I'm doing and like I'm doing, and bring light to what these in reality that they are. They're just changing the word of something to make it sound better, but the idea behind it is not any different. And then the same with like these setting up these administrative law and this bureaucracy. Again, this is the role of Congress. This is what we need. We have to look at this position a little bit different, folks, moving forward. And the power of the purse, Congress' role in doing this, that's why these bills were meant to be much smaller, is because they pass these bills that are 7,000 pages and then they give them to an administrative agency to fill in. They give it this skeleton and they let them fill it in with all of the details about it. It was never intended to be that way. Our government was not run that way up until recently. I think it was around the 2000s when they started changing the way they do this so that the administrative law it fills in all the details about these massive bills. And that's Congress's responsibility to not allow that to happen and then not fund it. Yes.
We have a question from Facebook from Cliff Taylor, Gene Taylor. They're asking, we will definitely be voting for you, so how can we help before Tuesday?
The biggest thing that everyone can do here, it's the biggest thing of what we're doing in our campaign right now, is it's all get out the vote. So you've got to tell 10 of your friends. You have to, for Cliff, Taylor, and them, you have to remind everybody that in our district and in a lot of Indiana, the primary is the election. The Republican primary is the election. On Tuesday, we're going to decide all of our our elected leaders on Tuesday. So when people are saying like, I'm going to wait and vote, in November, you've lost your vote. It doesn't matter anymore. The election is on Tuesday. A Democrat is not going to, if I win the primary, I've debated the two Democrats already. They're not going to win, they're not going to beat me. And even if they were brilliant, wonderful, incredible candidates, it's still unlikely. The 4th Congressional District is R plus 18. So it is going to be a Republican, that all those signs out there, they're all Republicans out there. The Indiana primary, Republican primary, is the election. So for Cliff and everybody on there watching, and the 600 people that are going to watch this, you've got to tell 10 of your friends that they have to vote in the primary. If they are dissatisfied with their representation at the local level all the way up to Washington, D.C., the only time they can have an opportunity to change it is in the primary. Joe Baddock is running in the primary. He will not be on the ballot in November if you don't show up for the primary. A Republican will, and a Republican will win. But it's whoever we choose in the primary. Remember that the primary is the people's election. The general is the party's election. So that if you want a people's candidate, to represent you, grassroots candidates, it comes down to the primary. It's a long way of answering. I can't beat that enough. Is that yard signs don't win an election, town halls don't win an election. Get out the vote, and getting people to the primary is what wins elections. Anything else? Kramer? No other questions? No. We didn't talk about a ton of policy. I'm happy to take questions afterwards or any other questions. I really appreciate everyone's time. If you're still on the fence, make sure you talk to me afterwards. And I look forward to keep doing these when we win on the 7th. This is what it takes. Yep.
Thank you for watching the Charles Bookwalter Digital Town Hall. For more information about Charles Bookwalter and the Bookwalter for Congress campaign, visit bookwalterforcongress.com.